It was consequential Islamic state inside of medieval barrier was that of the Umayyads. And their story is a bit complicated because it begins all the way back in Damascus, Syria. In the year 6061, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and the Umayyad clan, originally from Mecca, established his first caliphate, a religious and political entity, to cover all the Islamic lands. It was under the aegis of the Umayyads that Spain would come into the orbit of Islamic civilization. As we remember, Spain was conquered by the Muslims in 711 CE, and roughly within 10 years, most of the peninsula was dominated by their political leadership. However, in 750, momentous events transformed the Islamic world when the Abbasids violently overthrew the Umayyad Caliphate with a massacre of the elite ruling family. The consequence of this affair was the creation of a new Umayyad dynasty, but this time in Spain and in the city of Cordoba. One surviving Umayyad prince, Abdurrahman I, would take the title of Emir or commander and establish a new emirate in Spain. And from this emirate, slowly would evolve the most consequential of the Spanish Islamic kingdoms. It would become known as the Umayyad Caliphate of Cordoba, which would rule from 929 to 1061 CE. This is what we all refer to as the Golden Age of Islamic Spain, and in many aspects, it was a golden age for the Jewish community in Spain.
The rise of Umayyad Emirate in Cordoba. After the Emir Abdurrahman of Cordoba died on the 7th of October, he had appointed his second son, Hisham I, in 788 to 796 century to succeed him. But his elder son, Sulaiman, the governor of Toledo, opposed this. This dispute ended in Africa after Sulaiman accepted a pension. His young son, Al-Hakam I, by 796 to 822 century, succeeded Hisham, but the succession was again contested. However, the Umayyad Emirate was well established and flourished by the rule of Abdurrahman II in 822 until 552 century. The Abdurrahman I became the basis of the Umayyad power, and prosperity will become more secure and success after the Umayyad Emirate at its zenith in the next century under the Abdurrahman III. Abdurrahman III was the strongest ruler of the Umayyad Caliphate in Andalusia. He was blessed with charisma and a sharp intellect. In 929 century, Abdurrahman III declared himself to be a caliph. The claim was thus not directed against the Abbasid, but was to counter the claim of the Fatimid and to give the petty rulers of North Africa some theological justification for recognizing the suzerainty of the Umayyad of Cordoba. Finally, under his rule of Cordoba became Europe's largest and most cultivated city in its golden age of Umayyad Caliphate.
Fall of the Umayyads. It began soon after the demise of the Emirates, Al-Mansur and his two sons in 1009 AD. The caliphate went into the path of self-destruction. one of the components in the delicate balance of power set up by Al-Mansur, the Berbers, went power-hungry and kept replacing the caliphs. If the caliph did not satisfy their needs, the caliph will be ousted. It led to various factions fought one another in order to achieve victory and claim the power from the caliphs. These factions were the Andalusians, mostly located in frontier major cities, the Berbers in the southern Spain, and lastly the Saqaliba, the east of Iberian Peninsula. This faction broke even further into numerous taifa or party kings. The last caliphs of Cordoba were just a puppet to his vizier. The last caliph of the Umayyads, Hisham III, were overthrown by the nobles of Cordoba. With his exile ended the 275 years of Umayyad rule over Spain. It changed the tide into favoring the Christians. Little by little, the territories were chipped away from the Muslim rule, although there would be a revival under the Almoravids and Almohads. However, it would not last very long since they too would fall. The last Islamic Spain dynasty, the Nasrid, ruled over only a small portion of Spain and continued to prosper. This emirate will survive long, but it ended under the pressure of both Aragon and Castile, which invaded them in 1492.